I'll smile, I know what it takes to fool this town. I'll do it till the sun goes down and all through the night time. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what you wanna hear. Keep my sunglasses on while I shed a tear. It's never the right time. Yeah. I put my armor on, show you how strong I am. I put my armor on, I'll show you that I am. I'm unstoppable. I'm a Porsche with no brakes. I'm invincible. Yeah, I win every single game. I'm so powerful. I don't need batteries today. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today. Break down, only alone I will cry out now. You'll never see what's hiding out deep down. Yeah. I know, I've heard that to let your feelings show is the only way to make friendships grow, but I'm too afraid now. Yeah. I put my armor on, show you how strong I am. I put my armor on, I'll show you that I am. I'm unstoppable. I'm a Porsche with no brakes. I'm invincible. Yeah, I win every single game. I'm so powerful. I don't need batteries today. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today. I put my armor on, show you how strong I am. I put my armor on, I'll show you that I am. I'm unstoppable. I'm a Porsche with no brakes. I'm invincible. Yeah, I win every single game. I'm so powerful. I don't need batteries to play. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Unstoppable today. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today.
All right, Israel, let's get started. Thanks so much for cueing the music. Good morning, everyone. If you are here for CSAC's first All In and Ready webinar of 2026, then you are in the right place. I'm Kristen Tremarchi. I'm part of the executive office team at the California Student Aid Commission. And as I see, many of you are already using the chat to let us know where you are joining us from. Please feel free to continue to do that. We'd like to see where in the state and maybe even sometimes outside of we have people joining us from. Today, we'll be hearing a discussion about California's need for a college affordability plan, as well as some discussion of this month's focus, which is system impacted youth and students. If we can move to the first slide. So some logistics and reminders. We are here for 1 hour this morning. We will endeavor to have you on your way by 10 o'clock. As I mentioned, we can use the chat for more informal discussion, but if you do have a specific question, we request that you use the Zoom Q&A feature. We have staff standing by ready to respond. You already noticed, I'm sure when you joined, that we are being recorded. These webinars are posted on our YouTube channel as well as the Commission's website. We will provide information about that before we finish today. And should anyone need it, closed captioning is available in the Zoom meeting toolbar. You just toggle that on and off. And at the bottom, you'll see our social media handle, which will also be shared in the chat before you go. Next slide, please. So for anyone who may not be familiar with us, CSAC, California Student Aid Commission, is the primary principal state agency responsible for administering financial aid programs for students attending public and private universities, colleges, and career technical education schools in California. Our mission, as you can see, is promoting educational equity by making post-secondary education affordable for all Californians. On behalf of the California Student Aid Commission, we are grateful to have you all here with us today. Next slide, please. All right, so we will have some open and welcoming remarks from our Executive Director, Dr. Daisy Gonzalez, our own Commissioner, Lisa Cardosa, as well as our partners, Eloy Oakley and Sean Domingo. We'll then move on to some facts and research about college affordability from our partner, Kevin Cook. And then some CSAC, FAFSA, CATER resources and tools information from our own Dr. Jessica Moldoff and our Chief Deputy Director, Catalina Missler. And she will also wrap up the webinar and provide some information for moving forward. With that, I will hand it off to you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I love seeing how our audience is shifting every time we have a webinar. I'm seeing a lot more alternative education schools here, so welcome. You are in the right place. A lot more County Office of Ed partners and all of our partners across the state that are serving students and families today. We have made it to the year 2026, and today's a really special webinar for me. I have always enjoyed working with everyone here, and you see our CSAC team. It's now been a year and a half for me here at CSAC. But today we also get to see not just our partners from PPIC and our partners from CASFA, but some former colleagues. You have here with us Chancellor Eloy Ortiz Oakley. For me, he will always be the Chancellor of California's 116 colleges. But this morning, I want to start with a very special person. If you attended our College Affordability Summit, then you saw a panel where Commissioner Cardosa presented. And if not, you missed it, but somewhere there's a video out there. But I'm really honored to introduce the Speaker of the Assembly's appointee, a general public representative, a student-centered leader, the first Latina president of American River College here in Sacramento, Dr. Lisa Cardosa. She serves 32,000 students. She also has the largest community college apprenticeship program in the state of California. But she has dedicated her entire life to serving disproportionately impacted students, both in HSIs, but also Asian American and Native American Pacific Islander serving institutions. She has served in multiple roles here in California, from the CSU as a chief of staff to many other roles within that segment, and in particular at Sacramento State. But she's also a proud mother, and she earned a BA and a master's from Stanford University and a doctorate from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. For us here at the Commission, she's here to ground us on what the California Student Aid Commission does, what the passion is for all of our commissioners, and of course, to welcome you and wish you a happy new year. With that, Commissioner Cardosa, I'll hand it over to you.
Mil gracias, Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. Good Thursday morning and Happy New Year. And again, welcome. Welcome to the All In and Ready webinar series, Call to Action, California Needs a College Affordability Plan. As you heard, I am Lisa Cardosa, proud commissioner with the Student Aid Commission, and the very loud and proud, and as Dr. Gonzalez said, the first Latina president of American River College. Shout out to my colleagues who are here and active in the chat. Really proud to be here this morning. So I want to thank all of you for being here today, our financial aid professionals, campus leaders, advocates, and partners. But more importantly, I want to recognize all of the work that you do every day, given especially what is happening across the world today. Your work helps our students pursue not just their college, but their career dreams, and I cannot thank you enough. This month, the Commission is uplifting foster youth and students overcoming basic needs instability. This topic is deeply personal to me. What you heard, it was my bio, but what you didn't hear was my lived experience. As a teen parent, I attended college while trying to provide for my young son. At the time, I didn't have the words to articulate that I was struggling to have my basic needs met. Ooh, excuse me, didn't think I was going to get emotional, but there's a lot going on. I was navigating coursework, childcare, food, and bills, all while holding on to my dream of earning that degree. Financial aid wasn't just paperwork to me. It was a lifeline. It meant stability, possibility, and the chance to focus on learning. So I, along with my colleagues here on this Zoom and across the state, have made it our mission to provide our students who are facing similar uncertainties with the resources that they need to succeed. When affordability fails, potential is lost. And when affordability works, families, communities, and our state all rise. Today, you will hear from Dr. Gonzalez, Executive Director Dr. Gonzalez, and PPIC Research Associate Kevin Cook about college affordability and access and what California can do to adopt and tailor financial aid to achieve student success at scale and close regional workforce gaps. We hope you find this webinar informative and encouraging and to give you the ganas to continue serving all of our California students and families. I also want to thank our special guests, College Futures President and CEO Eloy Oakley and CASFA President Sean Domingo. Our partnership with College Futures and CASFA is critical to fulfilling our mission here at CSAC. And of course, I would like to thank the Commission staff for their tireless work to ensure students are able to access financial aid. With the March 2nd deadline approaching, Dr. Moldoff will remind us that we still have work ahead, particularly in regions in California where completion is lagging. We need your continued help encouraging students and families to apply, reminding them that financial aid is safe, accessible, and available, whether through the California DREAM Act application or the FAFSA. The Commission remains student first and a resource to help financial aid professionals, students, and families to make informed decisions about paying for college. And we are here to help, and that is where we need you as well. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, but as I said earlier, more importantly, for what you do every single day for our students and for remaining motivated, especially during these uncertain times. Thank you for staying all in for California students. I will now turn it back over to Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardosa. I hope you saw a lot of the emojis and the love. So thank you, colleagues, for sharing your feedback on the chat and with your emojis. I now have the honor of introducing Eloy Ortiz Oakley, the President and CEO of College Futures Foundation. He previously served, as you heard me say, as the Chancellor of California's community colleges, all 116 of them, during a really difficult time from 2016 to 2022, critical years for California's community colleges. He is the reason why California has established the California College Promise, why California has designed and implemented not just major reforms like the elimination of standardized testing, the reform of remedial education, but also the adoption of a new student-centered funding formula for community colleges, and California's first public fully online competency-based education college, the only one like it in our state. He also served students when he left for Washington, D.C., when he served as the U.S. Secretary of Education Senior Advisor for Miguel Cardona, where he supported the development and communication of President Biden's Build Back Better agenda for higher education and America's College Promise proposal. He is a proud community college alum, served in the U.S. Army, and earned both his MBA and bachelor's degree from the University of California, Irvine. So please join me in welcoming Eloy Ortiz Oakley.
All right, Daisy, it feels like I'm going back in time in some good ways. Get to see you again, get to see you on a screen again. And also for some not good reasons, we have gone back in time. You know, it's impossible for me, particularly seeing you, Daisy, not to point out the obvious this morning, which is, you know, about 5-6 years ago, I've lost track of time these days, on the morning after the murder of George Floyd, we got together and we decided we needed to do something. in the California community colleges to change the direction, to create an inflection point, and point us toward a more resilient definition of equity, a more inclusive and more diverse definition of who we are as not just Californians, but as the California community college system. And I was very proud of the work that we did the morning after, the weeks after, the way that the students responded, the way that everybody in the system worked together. And here we are this morning, another murder, maybe about a mile from where George Floyd died. And we are far, far removed from the definition of equity that I had hoped, I know we had all had hoped, that we would have overcome by now. So are we all in? You know, I love the tagline for today's webinar, all in. Are we truly all in? Because we haven't been. We certainly haven't been all in the pursuit of equity. Otherwise, organization after organization wouldn't be scrubbing those words off their website. And for anybody who's watching today who is with the federal government, let me be clear. The word equity is still on the College Futures website and will remain so. Because equity is a pursuit of opportunity for every Californian, regardless of where they come from. And we at College Futures believe that equity can be achieved through access to great post-secondary opportunities that allow people to get access to good paying jobs, to careers, and to the opportunity to actually live into the California dream, something that we believe that we need to rebuild. And so here we are today. Are we all in 2026? Because we weren't all in soon after the murder of George Floyd. Or otherwise, we wouldn't be having this same conversation today. We weren't all in changing the way that we think about affordability in higher education. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the debt crisis that we have. We wouldn't have the collapsing confidence in higher education that we have today. And we wouldn't have the complete dismantling of the words diversity, equity, and inclusion across America's higher education systems, including ours in California. So I'm both looking forward to what 2026 has in store for us, but I'm also extraordinarily frustrated that we're continuing to have this conversation, that we continue to go through the motions of talking about policy change, about talking about reimagining post-secondary education, reimagining opportunity in California, and coming up with a more resilient definition of equity, a definition of equity that resonates on the ground with the real people who are struggling, not a definition of equity that resonates in scholarly debates or in department chair meetings, a definition of equity that resonates on the ground to working class people in California. And that begins with us as a higher education community, as an education community, reimagining how we center learners, not institutions, because the way that we are organized today, we center institutional priorities. Yes, institutions drag in students when it's convenient for them, and they lock them out when it's not convenient for them. But we don't center learners. We say we want to center learners, but we don't. Because if we centered learners, we'd have a real robust understanding of what learners need today, not what they needed 30 years ago. The state of California would have a formal plan for how to upskill and reskill working learners throughout California, how to think about creating more post-secondary pathways, not less, and for prioritizing learners that are in the workforce today, that are struggling, trying to understand not just how to find a career pathway that allow them to raise their family, but to how to deal with all the challenges that are in front of them, the changes in the workforce, the changes that are already here because of the introduction of AI. And, we can lament all day long about how terrible these things are, but it's up to us to help learners today embrace those changes, become more resilient in the marketplace. And so we, as a community of higher education leaders, and I consider everybody watching today a higher education leader, whether you're a counselor in K-12 helping students understand where to go from high school, or whether you're in a community college, the CSU, the UC, a private post-secondary institution, a policymaker, a person who's just trying to figure out how to help their students. All of us as a community are leaders. And we have to get out of the comfort zone that we've been in and really start to push on what we need to do. Governor Newsom opened the door to this conversation by introducing the Career Education Master Plan. It's up to us to take it from here, and begin to really figure out what needs to happen with learners from cradle to career, because that's the reality of where we're at today. Learning doesn't stop when financial aid runs out, when they complete or perhaps not complete their bachelor's degree. Learning happens continuously, and learners need to access good post-secondary experiences throughout their career, particularly those who never had the opportunity to pursue higher education in the first place. You all know the numbers, 6 point something million learners in California in the workplace that have some college, no degree. Who knows how many more million who never had the opportunity to experience higher education. Millions of learners in the marketplace, in the workforce today, who got a degree and who aren't working in their field of study. So we can go on and on and on. We at College Futures support the creation of more transparency in higher education, the focus on creating real solutions for working learners. These are adults in the workplace that need access to good post-secondary education, need access to upskilling and reskilling opportunities. This has to be a formal policy of the state of California. And we cannot continue to pretend like we're leading in higher education, because so many other states have already moved so much further than we have. We find ourselves today, after discussions in Washington, D.C. about how we're going to implement Workforce Pell, back on our heels, pretending like this is something new. The conversation about Workforce Pell has been going on in Washington, D.C. for at least a decade. We should have been leading the way on developing a formal plan for working learners, for people who need to get into careers. And let's be honest, folks. We can have debates all day long about the value of higher education. And I support the diverse opportunities that you get by becoming a graduate, by becoming a holder of a higher education degree. I aspire that for my children. But the reason people come to our institutions, 97% of them, is to have access to better economic opportunities, to have better access to good paying jobs, to provide their children, their family, their communities access to the California dream. And by and large, we have been failing at that. Generation after generation today feels like that dream is gone, either never existed or was always imaginary. Affordability in the state is going in the wrong direction, even though we've been talking about it for years. We continue to allow policy restrictions, policy loopholes be centerpiece of our strategy, instead of reimagining the whole structure and putting the learner at the center. We still put institutions at the center. I know I've spent years in California State Capitol. I see the lobbyists. I saw the lobbyists every day. I sat in meetings to hear all the excuses why institutions needed more Cal Grant support, why they needed more federal financial aid, why they wanted to ensure that community colleges weren't free, because that would mean less money for some four-year institutions. So we're stuck in these conversations instead of turning the table and putting the learner at the center. What does the learner need? And then working our way back from there. So if we're going to be all in, then we have to put all of this on the table. All of this now, particularly in 2026, when we will be hearing policy perspectives, we'll be hearing gubernatorial candidates talk about what the future of California should look like. I mean, you can't turn on the TV anymore without seeing a commercial of one of the gubernatorial candidates. We need to influence that conversation. We need to ensure that the next governor is going to carry forward the work that has been done previously and do it with greater momentum and with greater urgency, and ensure that we're going to have a California that we all can be proud of and that our children believe will get them to what people have been saying is the California dream. Because the California dream isn't working 3 jobs just to pay rent in Orange County, working 3 jobs just to get by in the Bay Area, or living in the Inland Empire and having to commute all the way to LA just to have a job. That is not the California dream. Certainly not the California dream that I aspired to when I was a young person. And that's certainly not the California dream that most young people feel exists today. We need to take this as an opportunity with all the chaos that's in front of us, with all the angst that's in front of us, the fear, the challenges from the federal government. We need to create a more resilient, a more lasting, a more understandable version of equity in the state of California. And if we can do it in the state of California, then we can do it for the rest of the country. Because I know one thing, young people throughout this country are hungry for leadership. They're hungry for a solution. Unfortunately, sometimes a populist message resonates with them and they follow that message. But that's not where we need to go. We as leaders need to show what will actually work and what will actually help California and its residents get to where we want it to be. So let's be all in. Let's take this as an opportunity in 2026 to push forward, to push with urgency, to not continue to be on our heels, but to push forward with courage, to force our leaders to have the courage that they need to stand up to forces that want to undermine the definition of equity, to force leaders to stand up to the forces in this country that want to push us back 20, 30, 40 years in terms of the fight for opportunity for every working Californian, regardless of where they're from. That's our opportunity in 2026. And I think that's how we need to see this. Yes, we should be upset about what we're seeing on TV. Yes, we should be angry, but we should not take this as an opportunity to step back and let things continue to happen. We need to show that we can both be a diverse and inclusive state while also being a hugely successful state, and show that as an example to the rest of the country. So that's my hope. And we at College Futures will continue to partner with CSAC, with others in the state of California who want to reimagine the California dream. We will continue to do our best to convince policymakers, to convince influencers, to convince the media to think about this differently and to put the learner at the center of the conversation. Yes, it will be difficult, but I believe that we can get there. And with all of your help and support, working with people like Dr. Gonzalez and the California Student Aid Commission, I think we can get there. So I will end there. I know there are lots of other things that need to be said in this webinar. It's been a pleasure to be back here with Daisy and with all of you. So with that, Daisy, I will hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Eloy, and Happy New Year. I hope you catch up on the chat. I just want to echo some of the comments in there. Linda Webb, powerful message with truth and reality. Janine Hall, thank you for your honest, passionate words. This is such a sad day and time, but you have lifted us up today. Thank you for grounding us, Eloy. Thank you for your partnership and leadership at College Futures Foundation. Colleagues, if you don't know about College Futures and the work that they have been leading here in the state, and particularly under Eloy, I invite you to visit their website and learn more about their efforts to make sure that California can better serve adult learners, but really every student here in California. I want to ask our colleague, and I know I skipped a couple of slides, team behind the scenes, and I appreciate the grace on how you're skipping through the slides, but I want to head straight into our colleague from CASFA. I want to introduce Sean Domingo, the president of CASFA. He's the director of financial aid and scholarships at San Joaquin Delta College in California, and I had the honor of meeting him at the CASFA conference recently, but he has served in many different roles here in California, from Solano Community College to Ohlone, has also served in Hawaii Community College in Honolulu. And when I asked for a bio, I was so excited to see that he really introduced me more to a bio that was really about who he is as a human being. And one of the things that caught my eye was he said, I've taken on many regional and national association leadership roles, but my main focus is stripping away the complexity of college cost while focusing on accountability and clear planning to make the investment of a degree accessible and understandable for students and families. And so I love that, Sean. I want to hand it over to you, and thank you for getting us started with a welcome message from CASFA. Are you there, Sean? Thank you so much, Dr. Gonzalez. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody today. So thank you everyone for allowing me to speak today. It's been an honor to serve in every position that I've served in. I have been in financial aid for, this year makes 23 years, from Hawaii to California, back to Hawaii, then back to California, and in various segments. So 4-year, 2-year, proprietary, nonprofit, community colleges, universities. And it's been a journey, but it's been a journey that I enjoy. It's financial aid is my passion, and being able to work with the students and being able to give back what I received when I was going through school. So just to give you a little background on myself, I am a first-generation college student out of my family as well too. I'm also a triplet, and I am one of 13 kids. My family was definitely low income growing up. We shared food, we shared clothes, we shared everything. And I would have never thought college would have been an option for me until I enrolled in community college. And actually my community college that I enrolled in was Solano Community College here in California. And the support and the resources that were provided to me let me know that it was going to be okay. I could do this. I wasn't your traditional college student. I had to go to work. I had to drop out of high school after my freshman year to take care of my family. Had to take on 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job. So I didn't go to college right after high school. I did 3 years of independent study, graduated early, my junior year, and then just went to work. After a few years, I started to see some of my friends that I had gone to high school with and junior high with, and seeing them with their degrees, seeing them doing well, and decided at that point I was going to go back myself and do it for me. And the amazing individuals over at Solano College at the time were essential in that happening. And I thank them every day. I still talk to most of them, but I thank them every day for everything they helped me through. If you were to ask the person standing behind the financial aid counter now how I'm doing,
I would tell you that out of the 23 years that I've been in financial aid, the last maybe 2 to 5 have been the hardest of my career. As a financial aid director at community colleges, I've lived through a rollout that was supposed to make things easier, but instead nearly cut the lifeline of most of our vulnerable students. But my exhaustion isn't just professional, it's personal. I look at the students sitting across from me and I see myself all the time. Like I said, I grew up low income. I'm Native Hawaiian. I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And I know what it feels like to navigate a system that wasn't necessarily built for us. I strongly believe in accountability. It is a value that I do hold dear and that I was raised with. When we make a mistake, we own it and then we fix it. Those of us that have been in the profession for a while know that on a daily. But lately, I've sat with a lot of students who did everything right. They got grades, they got their admissions letters, they got their paperwork, they got all of their ducks in a row, only to be told that a technical glitch that was outside of their control meant they couldn't pay for housing. I've watched my team work nights and weekends, not because they were asked to, but because we know that a pending file means that a student is sleeping in their car. So I'm honored to be here today to be able to talk to you about that and to tell you a little bit about why I do my volunteer work for CASFA. A lot of people do tend to forget that these nonprofit organizations that we volunteer for, it is strictly that, it is volunteer work. And this is on top of our full-time jobs that we have. So we don't do it for the money. We don't do it for the acknowledgement. We do it because we truly care about what we are advocating for, and that is for our students. I don't do it because I have extra time. God knows none of us do, especially with FAFSA simplification and then the better FAFSA. I do it because I believe higher education is an investment. It's the biggest investment a person can make in themselves, just like buying a home or a car. You don't buy a house without a solid foundation, and you don't buy a car without an engine. But we have been asking our students to invest in their future while stripping away the very support systems that keep them running. I volunteer because when the systems go dark, it's my colleagues who answer the call. I volunteer because policy is often written by people who have never had to look a single mother in the eye and tell her she didn't have enough money to survive the semester. That's why we're here. We're staring at a deadline in 2026. We need a real plan for college affordability. In California today, tuition free means nothing if you can't afford a roof over your head. We're facing a crisis where rent has skyrocketed while our aid has barely moved. And these aren't just numbers to me. These are our students that it's affecting. We need this plan because the solution, a system based on true equity, is already written. It's sitting there waiting for funding. Policymakers might just, tell us to wait. They might say the budget is tight, wait for tomorrow. But I'm just here to tell all of you today that tomorrow is going to be too late. It's too late because the temporary funds holding our campuses together are expiring. If we don't have a solid plan to replace them, the safety net disappears. And it's too late because we have a massive gap to fill in our workforce right now. If we fail our high school students that are entering college today, we're going to fail our entire economy. But most importantly, tomorrow is too late because trust is fragile. And after the recent disasters with the FAFSA simplification and then the better FAFSA rollout and the back and forth that the Department of Ed has put us through, our students are losing faith in the system. And they're asking us, does California actually want me here? Does, the federal government really want me to get an education? Is an education even worth it? So real college affordability or a real plan is our answer. It's our way of saying, yes, we want you here. It's a way of us telling our students that we value the investment that they're putting into themselves and that we will cover your real costs, not just your class fees. So that's why I'm here asking everybody that's on this webinar today, just stand with us. I'm asking you to fight for the plan that treats all of our students fairly. Because when I go back to my office, next week, Monday, and it's the start of the semester for my campus, I want to be able to sit down across from the student who is scared that might not have dropped out. I want to be able to look them in the eyes as someone who has walked in their shoes and be able to tell them, you know what, we fixed it, you're safe, and you can stay in school. So thank you again for allowing me to speak today. And thank you to Dr. Gonzalez for asking me to speak. I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, Sean. Really well said, and really looking forward to your leadership at CASFA. Thank you for getting us started and getting this webinar and year started off on the right foot. Colleagues, if we could go to the next slide, I want to make up some time because you have been inspired by 3 incredible speakers already this morning. So I want to focus on how do we get there? And we all have to have the same common language, the same information. We're all going to have different ideas of how we solve a problem. But for me, everything starts with research and data. And so I want to introduce Kevin Cook from Public Policy Institute of California, who works with many colleagues who have invested decades understanding college affordability, the differences by segment, by student type. Kevin's research is both in K through 12 and higher education, which means he understands the full landscape. And so I want to hand it over to Kevin to ground us on common language. What is college affordability for whom, and how have things shifted in the state of California? Thank you, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Those are some pretty inspiring speakers. As Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, my name is Kevin Cook. I am a research associate with the Higher Education Center here at the Public Policy Institute of California. My role today is to provide a little bit of context and data to inform this discussion. I'm going to keep it short, but I have just a few points that I wanted to make. Before I do that, though, I have to just as a reminder, PPIC is a public charity, does not take or support positions on any ballot measures or legislation, nor does it support, endorse, or oppose any political parties or candidates for public office. So we can go to the next slide. So to begin, expanding access to financial aid is essential for both college affordability and student success. A large body of research shows that financial aid not only increases college enrollment and persistence, but also supports degree completion and helps students graduate faster, keeping higher education a pathway to economic mobility for all students from all backgrounds. So last year, PPIC conducted a statewide survey and asked parents of school-age children about their hopes for their kids' education. What we found is that most parents really value higher education, but most are concerned about whether they can afford it. Our survey results showed that 71% of parents want their children to graduate from a 4-year college or higher, and another 21% hope their children will complete community college or a career technical training. At the same time, about 7 in 10 of those parents are concerned about being able to afford college. That concern is understandable with tuition on the rise. In California, tuition varies widely, ranging from about $1,300 a year at community colleges to over $50,000 at a nonprofit 4-year private institution. At the CSU system, tuition has stayed relatively flat for about a decade, but it will now increase by 6% annually over the next few years. At UC, tuition increases are tied to inflation for each incoming undergraduate class, though once students enroll, their tuition is locked in for up to 6 years. Tuition is only part of the picture, though, as we know in California. Next slide, please. Non-tuition costs make up a substantial part of students' overall expenses. So a critical issue here is basic needs insecurity. Food and housing costs in our state are particularly high. Among in-state undergrads who live off campus and not with family, food and housing make up 41% of overall costs at UC, 56% at CSU, and 72% at community colleges. In fact, food and housing can cost more than tuition at UC and CSU on average. Many students at CSU and community colleges live with family to help reduce those costs, but those costs are still high as well. Although college costs are high, financial aid significantly reduces the burden for many students. In 2022-23, 55% of first-time, full-time California undergrads received state or local grants, and 48% received federal grants. That's much higher than the national rates of 35% and 42% respectively. For costs that aren't covered by aid, some students turn to loans. But with generous aid and relatively lower tuition in our state for in-state students, California's borrowing rate is lower than the national rate, and roughly 2/3 of CSU and UC students graduate without debt. Next slide, please. So while financial aid indeed eases much of students' financial burden, the remaining costs can still be a challenge for lower income families in the state. Even with access to financial aid, families earning under $30,000 per year still need to pay about a quarter of their annual income to attend a UC, a fifth for ECSU, and 15% of their annual income for community colleges. Those state aid programs like Cal Grants and the Middle Class Scholarship, along with safety net programs like CalFresh and Medi-Cal, help reduce overall college costs for students. More work is needed to make college truly affordable for all of the students in California. However, there are some efforts underway in the state to address this issue. For instance, California has recently expanded access to financial aid, thanks in part to the state's universal financial aid application policy. Next slide, please. Starting with the 2022-23 school year, all districts in California were required to show that all graduating high school seniors completed a financial aid application form like the FAFSA or the CADA, or formally opted out. A recent PPIC study authored by myself, my colleagues Rachel Young-Jo and Selena Gomez found that in the first year of its implementation, this policy directly led to an increase of 1,500 additional students enrolling in college. Encouragingly, students with the greatest financial need experienced the largest increase in enrollment with a completed FAFSA, and first-generation students showed a larger increase than their non-first-generation peers. So while we still have a long way to go to ensure that college is affordable for all students who wish to attend, and a wide-ranging plan is definitely something that would be necessary, there's clear evidence that increasing access to financial aid can have significant positive outcomes for students, institutions, and the state as a whole. So I hope I was able to give just a small bit of information and facts here to at least inform the conversation a little bit. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Dr. Gonzalez, and thank you again for the opportunity. It was great to be here.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for grounding us in PPIC's work. I want to just reiterate 3 things that you mentioned for us. Absolutely, financial aid applications are the front door to access. Californians want access to higher education. Food and housing is the biggest barrier. And one thing that stood out for me that you said is California's lowest income Californians, those making $30,000 or less, are paying nearly a quarter of their income to attend. I think it was a UC. So I want us to hold on to that, right? This idea that Californians need more access. We have a viable pathway, that's financial aid. And yet we know that depending on the type of institution that our students enroll in, their access differs. And then you add on the intersectionality of income. I also want to now transition us to what can we do about it? Next slide, please. These are not new ideas. Eloy Ortiz Oakley from College Futures grounded us in the fact that everything is transforming around us, including our own governor leading and creating a master plan for career education here in the state of California, creating a very clear goal to better serve adult learners by the year 2030. We also heard very clearly from Commissioner Cardosa, even in her own journey, this idea that financial aid was critical and that food and housing insecurity, even in her own journey, was a challenge. You then heard Kevin talk about many of the challenges that Californians face. But in this case, I want to bring us back to what Sean shared, which is many of the students that he has to look in the eyes. And when he has to deliver the news, he wants to be able to go back and say, we've solved the problem for you. This slide deck is not showing you anything new. This has been happening in California for many, many years, this transformation, right? Think of the early 2020, when California finally removed the cap on dual enrollment. Now we are seeing dual enrollment expand. I've mentioned in prior webinars, great, this is incredible. The next challenge we're going to face is how does dual enrollment get integrated into our systems, and what does that mean for financial aid? I want to go to the next slide though, because California Student Aid Commission has been at the center of thinking about how do we support institutions, how do we support students and families. And I joined you a year and a half ago, thinking about what we could do from the perspective of the California Student Aid Commission. And together with the team, I have an incredible team of executive leaders, we created a blueprint that we presented to our commissioners. They adopted it last year with 3 very clear goals. They wanted the California Student Aid Commission to, yes, lean into equitable access, which means we want every Californian to complete a financial aid application. but they want the commission to also play a role in connecting disjointed systems and ensuring that students and families are supported throughout their journey. And more importantly, that the commission is ready to serve California students and families with the right data and information about metrics and outcomes to support California in creating the future of financial aid. And you see at the very bottom, the future is really the future learners and California's workforce needs. All three goals are centered in equity. All three goals are critical. But right now, we are doing one portion of it really, really well. And that's equitable access. It's why you see applications going up. You're going to see historic numbers of investments in Cal Grant middle class scholarship. What we haven't solved for is what I'm going to show you next. Next slide, please. I asked the team to, number one, share a little bit more about the SEER survey, which we just conducted and we shared with you back in November and December. Our why is very clear. That's our students. You don't need to see any more data. Kevin did an incredible job, but in front of you with the SEER survey, and Dr. Moldoff covered this in prior webinars, you're seeing that adult learners and student parents have greater obstacles. Even when they enroll, when you have dependents, when you're an adult learner, you're paying more per month. That means that we have not created an equitable system here in California. And then overall for students, any student going hungry, couch surfing, that should concern all of us. That's persistence and success in danger. Next slide, please. So what can we do about it? Not too long ago, last year, we ended the year thinking about what our California Student Aid Commission blueprint shared, which is our strategic plan. This idea that here in California, we could be leading the nation by being more resilient, by creating a master plan for college affordability. And this is only the perspective of the California Student Aid Commission, and it certainly is mine. I've done all the research, survive academia, but I love policy work. Why? Because I love transformational change and building interconnected systems. So in front of you is an opportunity for California to lead by creating a student-centered college affordability plan, one that helps us achieve student success at scale and close regional gaps by doing three key things for students: addressing the portability of their aid that would allow us to address transfer across multiple systems. The majority of community college students transfer to a four-year institution, but also the majority of Californians start at a community college. It's over 50%. This is huge. Coordinating resources for basic needs. We have them all over the place as a state, from other state agencies to even funding specific segments. Students and families need coordinated resources. And then expedited success by region. This is especially important for adult learners. I think there's always the first thing we can do and then the perfect. And the perfect doesn't help us. The perfect will take too long. So I want to walk you through if California could create a coordinated master plan centered on students, not on institutions, not on keeping the lights on, what would it actually tackle? Next slide, please. Well, you all have said in multiple webinars, and all the experts in financial aid have been sharing some of the challenges in Cal Grant transfer entitlement. This is actually one of the things that Cal Grant reform and an equity framework attempted to solve. Of course, it's in state law. It has never been funded, though. But Cal Grant transfer entitlement, that means when a community college student finally transfers to a four-year institution, they are capped at the age of 28. The problem with that here in our state is that the majority of transfer students are over the age of 28, which means that we should be celebrating those adult learners who finally transfer, and we should be helping them get across the finish line to a baccalaureate degree, not capping them. We attempted to do something like this by going up until the edge from 27 to 28 at the California Student Aid Commission, and last year we served 554 28-year-olds. But imagine what could happen here in our state if all we did was, let's go to 29, and maybe next year we can afford 30. Let's dream big. That's not a new problem. You all know this problem. Next slide. In this next slide, you see another common problem that you all have mentioned here before, Cal Grant C. Many of you know that this is a program that's capped at 7,761 awards. That means we can only give it to 7,761 Californians. These are Californians looking for career technical education who are in workforce programs. And it is a program that's also a bit outdated. You heard Eloy mention 6.2 million adult learners and growing. The average age of a Cal Grant C student who is currently awarded is 25 or older. So we know the population, but the program is a bit outdated. We need to modernize it to align to the programs that we need to be filled in regional economies. We need to on-ramp this as a Workforce Pell solution. Workforce Pell is only one solution, but Cal Grant C should be the on-ramp for adult learners. And we should also think about accountability for regional living wages post-education when we think about this program, which is currently not in statute as a requirement of the program. Again, not new, but this is what it would look like for us to have a plan. It doesn't mean the students don't exist or that programs are not functioning. It means that we need to modernize them. In the case of Cal Grant, that is absolutely the case. Next slide, please. This one is also not new. In fact, many of you feel very passionately, and I feel very passionately, as you know, because this is personal to me. I was that Chafee Grant student, and it shocked me to show up and learn that it's a program that gets capped. So we have foster youth making it to higher ed institutions, the four-year institutions. You also have foster youth that are living beyond and surviving this foster care system beyond the current definitions of foster care. And most recently, federal limitations, particularly for undocumented minors who have entered the foster care system. All of those are challenges that we have to meet head on. What would it look like to actually allocate adequate funding so we could fund every eligible foster youth here in this state instead of trying to cram and make sure that the California Student Aid Commission doesn't go above 17.4 million. If we have a plan, if we actually funded foster youth as a shared partnership, we would see undoubtedly many more foster youth graduating. And what would it look like for us to actually acknowledge and see a population that is not currently visible in our data? Those who are above and outside of those age gaps for Chafee, their placements may be different. Their time in the system may be different. As a former foster youth, I can tell you, it doesn't matter how long you stay in the system. If you've been in that system for longer than 6 months in your life, it leaves a lasting imprint on you. And every foster youth who has survived any time period will tell you that they identify as a foster youth. It also means that we have to think about how we wrap around supports for students in foster care. Lots of room for us to grow, lots of room for us to integrate into a master plan for college affordability here in the state. And then the last program I want to show you as an example, the Dreamer Service Incentive Grant. Not new. We've talked about this here in our webinars. It's limited to only Cal Grant B participants. It limits payments for students, meaning they have to complete their hours and then we can give them a stipend. That is not how we treat other populations of students. And the hardest part is we are paying, in this case, providing stipends below minimum wage. So we're asking one of the most vulnerable populations in our state to put themselves at risk during a really difficult time, to volunteer 150 service hours, and then not be able to give them the resources that they need to stay enrolled, to meet their basic needs. And more importantly, when we limit a program to only the complexity of a Cal Grant B, you are excluding, in this case, many community college students. The number one segment where our undocumented students actually attend is a community college. And I know that you know that. I also know that there are many programs in those institutions that can better coordinate with this program. So there's room for us to do more. Next slide. I gave you those 4 examples because they're not new. You have been seeing them. You have been living them. You have been having to explain this to students. It's not an indictment on our work. A California Master Plan for College Affordability is about bridging. It's about creating and closing siloed data gaps, which means how can we do this faster? How can we connect Californians to aid that already exists faster? How do we coordinate our impact, whether the aid exists in another state agency or it's a siloed program for one specific segment? We have to coordinate it. And how can we actually map out college affordability pathways by student group? On the right side, I give you just an example. This is not new. What would it look like for us to better coordinate financial aid, federal programs, basic needs, segment-specific state investments, Cal Kids and savings accounts, veterans resources? How we communicate with families has to be with clarity and kindness and very directly tied to the success of their families. They don't care where the aid is coming from. They need our help. Next slide, please. So I want to close with this. In 2026-27 is a pivotal year. You all know the state budget will likely be presented tomorrow. You have 4 key opportunities that I just shared. They are not my ideas. They have been your ideas. And many of you have already been mentioning these to legislators for many, many years. But this is the moment where we can work together. Yes, it is a difficult budget year. When is it not? But at the very least, we here in California have an opportunity to be resilient, to start thinking about creating a master plan for college affordability and leading the nation. No other state has a larger investment than the one that we have, but also so complex that we have made it so hard for students and families to actually get through pipelines. We know we can do this. We would then become the first state in the nation to have a master plan for college affordability, one that's student-centered. Next slide, please. And I'll end with this. I love inspiration. We gave you a lot of it today, and we'll have to owe you this slide deck, which has a lot more information about how you can join us for other webinars, how you can join us in our work. But I want to end here. In doing so, if we were to become the first state to have a plan for college affordability, we would be designing resilient systems. What do I mean by that? Lots of things are happening at the federal level. Many more things may come at us. You know this. But we can build better systems here in California. We can lead the nation. And I love this quote. We searched far and wide, Chief Deputy Missler and I, and here's where we landed. We like the Socrates quote. The secret of change is not to focus all of our energy. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And I have to be honest, in 2026, one of my goals is to slow down, believe it or not, learning how to slow down, but slowing down so that I could build intentionally, because I feel like this is the moment where we can better work together, not on just one focused thing, like what feels like the impossible, like we can't get Cal Grant reform. I believe we can. I believe we can take that next first step, even if we have to solve it inch by inch. And that is what modernizing Cal Grant C could give us. But we need a long-term plan because we are not serving the students that we need to serve at scale. And many more Californians will need us for years to come. This is not about a single human being. It's not about me. It's not about who is currently serving in roles that are critical. It's about the future. And I want us to hold on to that. So I know we ran out of time. I'm so grateful for the extra time. We'll send some of these slides, and it looks like we also owe you an email with clarity as we head into March 2nd. I want to thank Dr. Moldoff, our Chief Deputy Missler, and Kristen. You missed out on their presentations, but we'll still send it in the slide deck. I want you guys to know that we are keeping our webinar for next month. Of course, our theme is African American Black Student Success Pathways and Partnerships. It will be a statewide theme. And so we are joining our colleagues across the state in elevating our African American and Black student leaders that we need to serve today and those of tomorrow. So thank you for joining us, everyone. Happy New Year.